Okay. Good evening. The VTA
Recording
Board
in
Direct.
progress.
Thank you. The VTA Board of Directors regular meeting of Thursday, November 6th is called to order. A few safety reminders. Please identify your nearest exit, and for everyone's safety, please do not block the exit doors. The nearest AED is at the public table in the back. The restrooms are outside the double doors adjacent to the reception area and shown on screen. In the unlikely event we need to evacuate, our assembly area is in the plaza, as you can see here outside of the building's double doors. The address of our meeting location is also shown on screen. Welcome to the members of the public who have joined us tonight. For those who would like to address the board, you're encouraged to complete a blue speaker card, which is at the public information table at the back. Please submit the completed card to staff before the item is heard. Virtual attendees can also use the raise hand function on Zoom or press *9 if dialing in. We'll invite those who are here in person to speak first, followed by those on Zoom. And with that, Elaine, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair. Abecoga, Arenas. She was here earlier. I saw her. Alternate Board Member Bozo, absent. Ex-official Member Burt, present. Candelas,
Here.
present. Cohen, present. Young, absent. Foley, absent. Jane,
Here.
Kamei. Here. Thank you. McAllister, absent. Montano, absent. Moore, Moore present. Mulcahy, absent. Sell,
Here.
Turner,
Here.
Weinberg.
Here.
I'll come back to Arenas.
Here, thank
Arenas present. Vice Chair Mahan.
Here.
Thank you. Chairperson Lopez.
Here.
You have a quorum, Chair.
Thanks so much, Elaine. Moving on to 1.2, orders of the day. Staff is requesting that we hear regular items 8.2 and 8.3 together, as both of these relate to VTA's BART Silicon Valley Phase 2 extension project. Are there any colleagues who'd like to request changes? And are there any other changes from staff? Okay. Can I have, were you going to say something, Greg? Can I have a motion and a second to approve the orders of the day?
Second.
Candelas and Jane. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we move to item 2, closed session. As you can see on the screen, we'll have a few items on closed session tonight, 2.1A through 2.1D. At this time, I would like to welcome any members of the public who would like to address the board on the closed session items to come up at this time if there are comments. Do we have any speakers in person or online? Thank you. Blair Beekman for closed session.
Back in the Bay Area from San Diego.
Is the microphone on? Sorry.
Hi, okay, now we're ready. Okay, hi, Blair Beekman. I'm back from San Diego. I'll be living here in the Bay Area for the next 4 months. So I figured I better start showing up here and say hi. It's nice to be here in person. It's really nice to see everybody again. Feels good. I just wanted to thank you that your closed session agenda, you're doing it at the beginning of the meeting. And so that way, you know, people can, the public can return to the regular meeting. They can get a sense they can return at, say, 6:30 and have it, it'll be pretty much on time that you'll start around then. So thank you for that. It's a much better system. Thank you for working that out. Good luck in that with your closed session agenda items. The language can have a little more explanations of what the items are about. I know you guys play it by the book, but in San Diego, they offer that additional sentence or two to explain the situation of closed session agendas, and it helps a lot. It makes for a good public process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else around line? I'll now close public comment. We'll recess the closed session, and we'll be back at approximately 6:30 p.m. Thank you all.
Recording stopped.
Testing 1, 2. Oh. Is it on there? I don't think these are on.
Test, test. Yeah, 37 is not. Test, test. One, two, test, one, two. We'll just use this. Test, one, two. Test, one, two. Test, one, two. This works. Test, one, two. I can hear myself now. Test, one, two. Test, 3, 4. It's too loud, too loud. I think that's why they put it all the way down, because of the feedback. Test, 1, 2, a little bit. Test, 1, 2. Test, 1, 2. I think this is good. That's a good volume. Thank you.
So that's at 89.
to the members of the public joining our meeting today. We'll come back in approximately 5 minutes. Thank you for your patience.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. We're now back to open session, and Evelyn Tran, our general counsel, will provide the closed session report for items 2.1A and 2.1B.
Thank you, Chair. For those two items, the board did not take any reportable action.
Thank you. And I want to note for the record that there were no reportable actions taken during closed session for items 2.1C and 2.1D. We're now on to item 3, awards and commendations. And for 3.1, I'd like to take a moment to recognize 2 retirees who are unable to join us this evening. And you see them on the screen. We have Jeff Larner, transit foreperson, who has dedicated 39 years to VTA. His hard work and expertise played a key role in keeping our fleet running smoothly. And our other retiree is Jacqueline Luce, coach operator, who provided 29 years of service. She was known for her professionalism and her commitment to safely serving our passengers. On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank Jeff and Jacqueline for their service and wish them well on their retirement. Do we have any public comment for this particular item? No? Okay. We'll go on to item 4, which is public comment for items not on the agenda. This is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on something that is not on tonight's agenda but falls within the board's jurisdiction. The law does not permit board action or extended discussion of an item not on the agenda except under special circumstances. So I do have a few speaker cards. I encourage you to fill out a speaker card if you're here in person and would like to speak, and we'll take those first and then go to any online speakers who can raise your hand on Zoom or press *9 to get in the virtual queue. So first we have Lupe Medrano, and that will be followed by Blair Beekman and then James Whiteman.
Good evening, board members. My name is Lupe Medrano. I know I come here to complain a lot, but tonight I would like to have you appreciate and acknowledge all your employees, all the way from customer service, our TS department, real estate department, bus drivers, paratransit drivers, schedulers, dispatchers, and everybody in and around those places, because it is their loyalty and dedication of over 20 years, a lot of them, who have made VTA a great organization. But I would like to ask you to take it one step further and dig deep into your pockets this Thanksgiving season and give us a turkey drive for all of us who have lost our SNAP benefits, who are struggling. A lot of them are your employees, clients as well. So if you can do this, we would really appreciate it. And I have blind faith that you can do this, no pun intended. And thank you very much for all the work that you do and your time that you give us. Thank you. Gracias, grazie, and merci.
Thank you. Next we have Blair Beekman.
Made it, okay, thank you. A big reason why I'm here today is that the federal agency UASI, that is in charge of emergency planning preparedness for the Bay Area, they've been going through some serious changes in the past few years as they're preparing for the Super Bowl, the World Cup, major events in our lives here in the Bay Area. They're going through administration changes that I've been writing to yourselves about, that I hope you've been getting my letters. It's a real serious situation that's happening. They have basically, I don't know how to say it, they've taken over the previous administration that was based on practices after 9/11 to have public oversight and best practices, accountability. They've ended all that, and I don't know why. And I wonder if yourselves are asking questions why this is happening. And what can be a process where we can have an open public dialogue? That's all I'm asking for yourselves to do. Good luck in the efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. James Whiteman.
This is James Whiteman. I was on the light rail today at 10:59 a.m. in the morning. There was the fare inspector at the light rail station over in Santa Clara told this guy to stop vaping, and they got into an argument. And there was another argument when the VTA fare inspector told the guy on the light rail that they were not paying fare, and they got into an argument. The guy was threatening to kick his ass. And that's got to stop. That is a 90-day ban automatically, and that has got to stop. He's going to beat the shit out, and that's what he said. And otherwise, I'd like to have Paul and Prague, who work in customer service. Prague gets number 1, Prague gets number 2 star, and Sylvia gets number 3 star. And what are you going to do for things over at Levi Stadium during Super Bowl FIFA? You need to get a $50 grant to build light rail, build some more CTVs over to Gray America and Lickmill light rail stations.
Thank you. We have Maria Calderon and then Jordan Maldo.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Maria Calderon. I just here to give a little bit voice about the transportation access. I would you like to get a little more improvement because sometimes they take you to one place and they take you for all over the place. And I would you like to know if you have any distance considerate to put back those people when you pick it up or you take it to their destination. That's only is my comment for tonight. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. And could I ask our staff to speak with you, please? They can follow up on your comments. Thank you. Jordan?
Good evening. Jordan Moldow, City of San Jose. I wanted to talk a bit about a law that was passed in California last session, AB 1904. It allows transit agencies to put yield decals on the back of buses in order to signal to cars that, hey, cars need to yield to buses that are trying to pull back out into traffic. And I'd like to encourage VTA to consider piloting that kind of sticker to see if it improves compliance at all with cars yielding buses and reducing the delay that buses face due to having to wait for a gap in car traffic in order to pull out into traffic. Maybe find a bus route that is particularly impacted by this and try putting some stickers on. I saw that VTA added the 30th anniversary stickers onto a bunch of its buses recently, so hopefully we can maybe use the data for how much that cost and how much staff time that took to estimate, what it would cost to do this kind of pilot. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. We'll have staff follow up on that as well. Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak in person? Online? Yeah.
Yes, there's one public speaker. Roland, go ahead and mute and speak when you're ready.
Thank you and good evening. So what I'd like to do is to share my experience using VTA and VALT on the way to the MCC workshop. I got onto the light rail at about 6 o'clock in the morning. An individual got from the light rail with a boombox and then got into a fight with another passenger and the sheriff had to be called. Then got on to VALT, no issues. On the way back, when I got back to Berryessa, it's a long trip, and some people have got medical conditions, both bathrooms were out of order. So I got onto the 500, got off at City Hall, went to security, and used the City Hall bathroom. Then when I got onto the light rail, all the entrances were blocked by people with bicycles, including trailers. In closing, I think my experience can probably help you understand a little bit why we're having issues with VTA light rail ridership. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else to speak online? Okay. We'll close public comment, and we have no items today under number 5, public hearings, and we'll move to item 6, reports. Do we have Kylie Clark, our Citizens Advisory Committee chairperson?
Good evening, Chairperson Lopez, Deputy General Manager Richardson, and members of the board. The committee met on October 8th, and as the Citizens Watchdog Committee, we received a presentation from staff on the 2000 Measure A semi-annual report ending June 2025, which you'll see is consent agenda item 7.15 on the agenda tonight. The presentation focused on progress of the two major VTA projects. These are East Ridge to BART Regional Connector and VTA's BART Silicon Valley Phase 2. We had a brief discussion on ensuring lessons learned from the EBRC project are being considered for the BART Phase 2 project. The committee also expressed interest in the board's decision on the BART Phase 2 preferred tunnel alignment, and I want to thank staff for sharing that information stemming from the board's October 17th special meeting. As you know, part of our charge as the Watchdog Committee includes reviewing 2000 Measure A expenditures, and we appreciate these periodic project updates from staff. Also on our CAC agenda, we received an update on your consent agenda item 7.13, the Transit-Oriented Communities Grant Program. We appreciate the community benefits of this grant program, and we want to express support for expediting the funding process and finding ways that the grant can help support access to grocery stores, as well as other neighborhood amenities. We also heard an update on the Better Bus Stops program, which is your consent agenda item 7.20. The committee briefly talked about what factors could influence bus stop elimination and how bus stop amenities could be used to improve ridership. And finally, I would like to thank the Governance and Audit Committee. At your meeting earlier today, you approved the evaluation panel's recommendation for our newest member, Alex Camus. He will be representing the Business and Labor membership category on our Citizens Advisory Committee. So this leaves us with just 2 vacant seats, and it does feel like a very full room when we meet. So we appreciate you sending any outstanding citizens our way for consideration. Interested folks can visit vta.org/apply-cac to apply. Our next meeting will be held next week on Wednesday, November 12th at 4 p.m. at the VTA headquarters at 3331 North 1st Street, and also virtually over Zoom. Thank you. That concludes my report, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no report for 6.1B, the Policy Advisory Committee, and the reports for 6.1C is in the packet. There's no report for 6.1D, and the report for 6.1E is in the packet. Okay, and I have public comment for 6.1, Blair Beekman. He passes. And we'll go to Greg, our Deputy General Manager, for his report.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening to the board. Happy to be filling in for General Manager, CEO Carolyn Gonat tonight, as she and Director Abby Koga are representing VTA on an APTA study mission. You should be seeing up on the screen here fairly soon a picture. And so just as a brief reminder, each of you has the General Manager's monthly report at your desk highlighting activities and performance for September 2025. And then also you have at your seat the VTA update sheet, which will give you a little more detail of the bus pictured here helping to support Gilroy's La Ofrenda Festival. Next slide. So first up, I'm happy to announce that the fiscal year 26-27 biennial budget of the ATU Trust and Spousal Medical Trusts has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. In order to receive the award, a government agency must publish a budget document that meets the criteria set forth by the Government Finance Officers Association and deemed by GFOA to excel as a policy document, financial plan, operations guide, and communication tool. The fiscal year 26-27 biennial budget of the ATU Trust and Spousal Medical Trusts satisfied the highest quality that reflected the guidelines established by the National Advisory Council on State and Local Budgeting and the GFOA's best practices on budgeting. And this is the second time that trust has been honored. I would like to extend my appreciation to the accounting, to the budget, and HR benefits team, along with union participation in securing this honor. Next, we'll talk a little bit about Clipper. The Clipper Executive Board approved a December 10th, 2025 date for full deployment of Clipper 2, the next generation of cards representing the start of customer transition and new available features. Clipper customers can expect features such as open payment acceptance on all transit operators, free and discounted transfers, instant value, ability to manage multiple accounts, online applications for youth and senior cards, and maximum fares on select agencies. MTC and operators continue to meet weekly to address remaining tasks under various project work streams, and the VTA marketing team is serving as co-project manager of the marketing communications program for the regional rollout. Regional campaign ads, as well as the operator toolkit and operator's guide, will be distributed within the next 2 weeks. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about the federal DBE changes. So the U.S. Department of Transportation has issued an interim final rule overhauling the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. Effective October 3rd, 2025, the IFR eliminated race and gender-based presumptions and requires all firms to prove individual disadvantage. All existing DBE and ACDBE firms must be recertified, and the rule prevents agencies from setting or enforcing any contract DBE goals until recertification is complete. As part of the certification, businesses must demonstrate their eligibility by submitting evidence of social and economic disadvantages through their own experiences and circumstances without regard to race or gender. VTA will update its DBE program, coordinate with other certifying agencies in California's Unified Certification Program on the recertification, and continue small business outreach under these new standards. I do want to stress that VTA does remain committed to the development of the diverse small business community in Santa Clara County and this region, and continues to engage through various means to keep firms informed of business opportunities here at VTA. And next, we're going to bring up on the screen and probably start a video. And as you'll see in the video clip about to run, VTA is the nation's first transit agency to pilot the exoskeleton technology, wearable devices that enhance workers' physical capabilities and reduce strain. The idea originated from a Women Innovating Transit survey highlighting the need to better support female mechanics. However, it has moved to a more global option to support all workers. Partnering with Levitate Technologies, VTA secured freeloaner units for pilot testing. The devices aim to prevent musculoskeletal injuries from heavy lifting and repetitive tasks while promoting innovation, safety, and inclusion. VTA is also forming a regional task force with AC Transit, SFMTA, and Samtrans to advance this technology. The pilot was recently showcased at the Latinos in Transit Leadership Conference by Maya Esparza, who, along with our Women Innovating Transit team, has been a key driver of this project, and Jesse Soto, who is championing this effort with our mechanics team. And finally, participation exercise for some people here. Oh, this is still going, ladies and gentlemen. And now we'll go to the participation. No, we won't. Here we go. And now, participation exercise. So you have T-shirts and some instructions on what to do regarding the 2025 Turkey Trot. So to my right, you have an example of what the back of the shirt looks like, and to my left, you have an example of what the front of the shirt looks like. So there you go. There's your Turkey Trot shirts. You want the exoskeleton? We'll get a couple more for you. This year, VTA will be represented in the largest Thanksgiving Day race in America with 88 employees. I encourage you to wear your shirt proudly, even if you're not able to do the race. Take a selfie and tag VTA and the Applied Materials Turkey Trot on social media. Our participation is part of VTA's well-being program to encourage our employees to stay healthy, so get moving. And one final quick note. The preliminary ridership data for October and the safety security data are in your reading folder. These documents are also available online. And with that, I will end this month's GM report and happy to take any questions.
I want to know if the exoskeleton comes in red and gold and you got an Iron Man costume. Do I see a like of Director Candelas?
Thank you, Chair. No, I just wanted to uplift the exoskeleton presentation by Jesse and Maya Esparza. I actually attended the Latinos in Transit conference, and the incredible work of our team and the leadership of VTA to be able to highlight, the outside the box thinking and some next generation things that we could do as an agency to protect workers and prevent long-term injuries is something that I wanted to uplift and highlight. And so kudos to Jesse and Jesse Soto for the presentation and the wonderful work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Great. Thank you for the report.
All right, so I'll jump in. So a supplement, you thought I was finished, but I'm not. A supplement to this month's GM report is item 6.2A, a presentation on Plan Bay Area 2050. So Rahul Sagamani, VTA Transportation Planning Manager, is here to introduce our speaker.
Okay, great. Good evening, board members. My name is Rahul Sagamani, multimodal planning manager here with the planning department. I'm here to introduce David Vaughton, who's the director of regional planning for MTC on this item. And this item is regarding the long-range transportation plan, which is Plan Bay Area 2050 plus. This is the long-range transportation document for the 9-county Bay Area that's prepared by MTC. It looks at a 25-year outlook. It coordinates transportation, housing, and land use, and is done in a 4-year cycle. It's a federally required document, and there's an EIR that's accompanied with the draft plan. MTC has been developing the plan since 2022 and is nearing the phase for completion. The key elements of the plan highlight strategies that consider transportation, housing, the economy, and the environment. So with that, I'm going to introduce Dave Vaughton to provide the presentation on Plan Bay Area 2050 plus.
Good evening, Dave Vaughton, Planning Director with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and Association of Bay Area Governments, and thank you for the opportunity to share a brief overview of Plan Bay Area 2050 plus, the region's long-range vision for transportation, housing, the economy, and the environment. If we could bring up the slides, please. Plan Bay Area 2050 plus seeks to create a more affordable, connected, diverse, healthy, and vibrant Bay Area for everyone who calls it home.
Okay, looks like we're having some technical issues on the slide, so we're gonna. Okay.
All right, well, while we get the slides loaded up, I'm happy to jump into it. Plan Bay Area 2050 Plus is a limited and focused update of Plan Bay Area 2050, which was adopted unanimously by MTC and ABAG in late 2021. There we go. Next slide, please. Thank you. This update has been under development for the past several years and has been advanced by the Commission and ABAG board at 3 key decision points over that time period. Most recently, this spring, the final blueprint was advanced into the CEQA process, following robust stakeholder and public engagement with key opportunities throughout 2023 and 2024. In October 2025, MTC and ABAG released the draft plan document, draft EIR, and draft implementation plan for public review and comment, and are conducting public and stakeholder engagement throughout fall 2025 as the final round of public input before bringing forward the final plan to the Commission and ABAG board in early 2026 for a potential approval. Plan Bay Area 2050 Plus must fulfill a wide range of federal and state planning requirements, including being updated every 4 years through a robust and collaborative process. Among other requirements, it can only include transportation investments that fit within a fiscally constrained funding envelope. It must accommodate future growth at all income levels. And most notably, it must achieve a per capita greenhouse gas reduction target set by the Air Resources Board and fulfill air quality requirements set by the United States EPA. Just as important, I want to underscore what Plan Bay Area 2050 Plus does not do. It does not override local land use authority, allocate any money to projects, or impose new mandates or propose new legislation. It is, in short, a visionary document that serves as a North Star for our diverse 9-county region, spanning urban, suburban, and rural contexts. This is the 4th iteration of Plan Bay Area, which was sparked by Senate Bill 375 in 2008. And required agencies to go beyond transportation and look at the intersection of land use and climate. We recognize that planning is just a first step towards real-world progress, but it's an important one, and we've seen continued focus on focused growth within our region, including in locally nominated priority development areas over the past 15 years. By pairing these plans with technical assistance and funding programs after they're adopted, we're able to support accelerating these trends towards a greener and more equitable region. We also include an implementation plan in the long-range plan that helps delineate some of the nearer-term actions. Plan area is comprised of 4 key elements: transportation, housing, the economy, and the environment. Key themes include maintaining and optimizing our existing systems, creating healthy and safe streets, and building out a next-generation transit network. In the housing space, it reflects all of what we call the 3 Ps of housing: protection, preservation, and production. It includes economic development strategies related to economic mobility and shifting the location of jobs. And last but not least, it includes environmental strategies, reducing risk from hazards like sea level rise and earthquakes, expanding access to parks and open space, and importantly, reducing climate emissions. So what has changed over the past 4 years? Well, first, Plan Area 2050 Plus has navigated post-pandemic realities, leveraging a clearer understanding of post-pandemic conditions, sustained remote work, slower transit recovery, slower population growth, and rising office vacancies compared to what we anticipated in 2021. Second, it integrated significantly lower transportation revenue forecasts, roughly $80 billion less, which sparked tough trade-off discussions, and it required a recalibration of our housing strategies to lean into cost reduction techniques to advance affordable housing goals more quickly. Third, it included a reimagined vision for public transit that focuses on fast, frequent, all-day services, prioritizing a safe and secure ride, as well as rider-focused improvements. Fourth, it wove climate resilience even deeper into the planning framework, introducing a sea level rise project list comprised of levees, seawalls, wetland projects, and the like to identify our needs to tackle that aspect of our climate. And last but not least, it did all of this while continuing to prioritize high-impact strategies that are critical to achieve the state's aggressive mandated climate target, which necessitates bold strategies like pricing, land use, and electrification. At the core of the plan is a vision of focused growth, comprised of growth geographies, both locally nominated and regionally identified. These are key places for new houses, businesses, services, and amenities, and account for the vast majority of future anticipated growth. In Santa Clara County, these growth geographies include a wide range of station areas around Caltrain, BART, and VTA light rail, as well as frequent bus corridors. And as the region's most populous county, Santa Clara County is anticipated to account for a significant share of job and housing growth over the next 25 years, which also reflects Silicon Valley's longstanding economic strength and continued innovation. While it's not possible to talk about all 35 strategies that comprise the plan today, I wanted to quickly speak to some of them and how they relate to the South Bay. First of all, the plan includes a first-ever safety and security strategy to make sure transit is safe, clean, and comfortable for all riders. We know this is important not only here in Santa Clara County, but also around the region to support ridership recovery. Second, Strategy T6 includes critical highway investments, recognizing that while transit is at the center of the plan, a significant number of trips will continue to occur by car, both now and in 2050. Modernizing corridors like I-680, US 101, I-80, and a number of others to make journeys safer while focusing primarily on non-capacity investments. And in the transit space, it invests in targeted service enhancements to enhance the existing transit network and make it more frequent, including the entirety of the VTA visionary network. On the land use side, Santa Clara County is home to many growth geographies near, as I mentioned, Caltrain, VTA, and BART stations. And these create opportunities to better connect homes and workplaces. And by focusing our growth in these locations, we can work to reduce housing costs and bring jobs closer to where people live. Lastly, on the environmental side of the plan, 2 key strategies to highlight here. Santa Clara County currently has an electric vehicle share of about 10%, but we know that there's much more investment needed to accelerate the transition. And so the strategy related to expanding clean vehicle incentives, both through additional chargers and subsidies, will be essential to get to climate goals. Last but not least, sea level rise adaptation is critical in communities ringing the bay from North San Jose, Milpitas, Mountain View, as well as, of course, in many other counties in the region. Let me just hit a few highlights on the statistics about the plan. Zooming in on transportation for a moment, our plan continues to have a focus on fixing our existing systems first, allocating roughly 3/4 of funding for that purpose. Another 16% of the budget is focused on transit in particular. And you can see some projects, of course, here in the South Bay, like BART to Silicon Valley Phase 2, the East Ridge Light Rail Connector, the Caltrain, continued frequency improvements on Caltrain, and of course, that VTA frequency boost project I mentioned, all factoring into the 16% shown on screen. And then the remaining 10% of the plan is really a focus on our various climate initiatives, active transportation programs, and a very small slice allocated towards freeways. Less than 1% of the investments in the plan would go towards highway expansion. One notable such project here in the South Bay is along the 101 corridor with the express lanes in San Jose. In addition to our transportation projects, there's also a robust list of over $90 billion of resilience projects. And of course, while other counties in the region may have a larger section of shoreline, there's some critical investments here in the South Bay as well, including the South San Francisco Bay Shoreline Project, which is reflected in the list. And the full list of investments necessary to protect our communities from sea level rise can be found in the plan. So just to hit a few highlights of some of the performance outcomes, if these strategies are implemented over the next 25 years, we could see a significant reduction in transportation and housing costs. Many more folks would be able to have easy access to frequent transit. The commute share for walking, biking, and transit would double roughly from today's levels. And we'd be able to achieve that 19% GHG reduction target. The plan is estimated to achieve a 21% per capita reduction based on our preliminary analysis. Last but not least, the plan includes a list of implementation actions for the next 5 years, ranging from preparing for a regional transportation measure anticipated in 2026, reforms to the Senate Bill 375 framework that guides our planning work, continued work to explore post-COVID shifts in travel, remote work, and land use patterns, and a variety of policies from the transit-oriented communities policy to Clipper Bay Pass. So in terms of next steps, this fall we'll continue our public engagement throughout the Bay Area. Comments are due by December 18th. We will be bringing forward to the Commission and the ABAG Board a final Plan Bay Area 2050 Plus for their consideration, likely in the February-March timeframe. And as always, given that we must update these plans every 4 years, we'll be back in 2026 to start a whole new update to Plan Bay Area, which will incorporate blue sky visioning, scenario planning, and a much broader array of planning activities. Thanks for your time. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks so much for the presentation. Colleagues, are there any questions on this presentation? Director Weinberg.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation. I thought it was very good and very informative. Is the goal of the Regional Transportation Plan to inform our board and the boards of our sister agencies when we're setting policy for our own agencies? Or is there going to be some kind of a future ask for action, direction, resources, or some ask of another kind with respect to the plan?
I think what I would say is, our planning work is ongoing and collaborative here in the Bay Area. And so as we developed this plan, we worked very closely with counties, with transit agencies, with local jurisdictions to understand what their needs are at the local scale. And then as we've gone through this process, we've really worked to hone those and kind of piece together a regional strategy in the process. And we know that as time goes on, there'll also be updates to county and local plans that will look to and reference Plan Bay Area as they proceed. So we see this as an ongoing and iterative work with our colleagues throughout the region.
Thanks so much. Any other questions from directors? Do you have any? We'll take public comment for this item. I'll list off the names: Jordan Moldow, Harry Neal, Blair Beekman, and James Whiteman, and then we'll go to online.
I want to thank VTA for your support of the Turkey Trot. I take VTA to the Turkey Trot each year, even back when I lived in Mountain View and I took the VTA light rail from Mountain View to the Turkey Trot. Caltrain is not as supportive. They run a weekend schedule on Thanksgiving, and their first southbound train doesn't reach Deer Dawn until well after the start of the Turkey Trot. And so if VTA can convince Caltrain to run extra morning trains for the Turkey Trot, I think that could be good for getting people out of their cars and onto transit. And just as a point, they do run extra trains for Beta Breakers. And on the 2050 plus plan, it's climate positive if we get it all done. And if we can fund it all. And so I encouraged VTA to really lean in on getting the climate positive projects done as soon as possible and leaning away from the freeway expansions and other negative projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry Neal.
Good evening, directors. First of all, thank you for your presentation, staff. I'd like to concur with what Jordan just said about how we should be focusing on transit as much as possible for the future, but also generally there are a couple of projects that I see as particularly crucial for the future of our region. One of which, of course, is BART Silicon Valley, but immediately after that, I would say that implementing some kind of high-quality transit along Stevens Creek and that greater east-west corridor is extremely crucial to our future for sustainable mobility. Please ensure that such investments in transit are prioritized as much as possible for VTA's participation in our region's future. Thank you.
Thank you. Blair Beekman, then James Whiteman.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman, thanks for these two items. My interest in being from the public is the Clipper service is doing well for the regional issues. Thank you. And what it's developing, I think it's doing something interesting. Having 50% fares, discount fares is really important. I hope BART can reduce their overall fares in the future and that there can be cheaper service for the future of BART. And from that, you know, the new elected mayor of New York has been talking about free transit service for their New York City bus routes. I hope that after we're coming out of the era of COVID, we can start talking about those kind of things here again in the Bay Area. Good luck in those efforts that we can. And with housing items with the MTC, I am a big fan of mixed income. I'm really hopeful that we can actually be talking about a future of our local neighborhoods where all income levels can be living in the same neighborhood, and that's not a fearful subject and conversation to have. Mixed income can help bring us to there. Thank you.
Thank you. James Whiteman.
This is James Whiteman. I think this is, is the thing on or not? Okay, thank you. This is James Whiteman. You know those TVs Matt Mayhem's putting up on the streets for the cars? We need to put those over on 5th and Santa Clara. We need to put those new TVs on our light rail stations, because I go over there and I see people driving their cars on those stations, and we need to put those new TVs up on those stations. And if people are caught driving cars, first of all, it's a warning. Second of all, it's $250 fine, and the third time, it's a 90-day ban.
I'm sorry, do you have something for on the topic of the reports that we just heard?
Oh. I like this plan, this 2050 plan you guys are doing. I think it's really nice, and I think it's really wonderful. I think it's a really wonderful plan.
Thanks much.
Okay. Sorry about the advice before.
No problem. Thank you so much. Any last questions from colleagues? Oh, we have one. Let's do online, please.
Roland, go ahead and speak when you're ready.
Yes, thank you. So I'd like to do is to echo the comments I made at the MTC workshop, that the plan is basically ignoring the massive growth outside our region, especially south of Gilroy. I mentioned Santa Cruz, Monterey, and San Bernardino County. And then moving on to your consent calendar later on, item 7.9, you're going to be doubling the Highway 152 capacity between I-5, the Central Valley, and south of Gilroy. So in closing, my question to the chair is very simple. I don't understand how any of that could possibly work without any Caltrain service or express lane between Morgan Hill and Gilroy. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close public comment. Any last questions? Great. We'll move to item 6.3, which is the chairperson's report. Can we go to the next slide, please? First, VTA, the Santa Clara District Attorney's Office, and the South Bay Coalition to End Human Trafficking hosted the Safety in Motion Anti-Human Trafficking, Exploitation, and Violence Conference in San Jose last week. And as we enter a very exciting year for our county this coming year with the Super Bowl and FIFA coming in our backyard, it was a particularly timely event to bring VTA law enforcement and hospitality professionals together to understand how human trafficking presents in real life, and how we can build a resilient, coordinated safety network between public agencies and the public at large. I had the honor of providing remarks along with our general manager, and I want to congratulate the VTA team on a very successful, well-attended event. In particular, my thanks to VTA Chief of System Safety and Security, Aston Green, Deputy Director of Safety and Compliance, Susan Lucero, Antonio Tovar on her team, and many members of the VTA operations and marketing and communications teams who helped make this event possible. This is VTA leaning into thought leadership and showing that we care, are proactive, and that we're doing our part to make the 2026 games a success. Next slide, please. So I also had the honor last month of providing remarks at our JWI graduation along with our general manager. I think these photos speak for themselves. It was an inspiring event with our partners from ATU and Mission College. We have 103 apprentices who earned their certificates of completion across several skilled trades, including coach operator, light rail operator, track worker, and overhead line worker. Special recognition to our light rail operator apprentices who made history as the first light rail cohort in the nation to complete an apprenticeship program. Since JWI launched in 2016, more than 600 employees have completed training through these career-building, life-changing programs. Thanks to VTA, ATU, and Mission College, we collectively continue to open doors for VTA employees to grow, learn, and advance in their careers. And this is always a highlight for me every year. It really shows what's possible when we all come to the table and work as partners. Congratulations to all of our graduates and their families, and thank you for doing your part to move VTA forward. Next slide, please. On October 7th, those of us in this photo, including board member Candelas, who joined us virtually, as you can see on the screen there, had our first Culture and Climate Ad Hoc Committee meeting. This was a major milestone for an effort that has been underway thanks to the board and dedicated VTA staff for over 4 years now. The ad hoc includes representatives from the board, myself, board member Candelas, and board member Abacoga, leadership from our unions, and members of the VTA executive team all coming together. This was an opportunity to level set on where culture and climate has been and where it's going. We heard the results of the second annual Culture and Climate Survey, which will allow the ad hoc to develop a work plan for future activities. The survey results tell a compelling story of progress on internal and external communications, engagement, and agency leadership. It also showed us, frankly, where VTA needs improvement, which will be the focus of our next meeting. There will be more activities and updates to come. And make no mistake, this is just a first step, laying out the roadmap for some of the work that's going to be done, not just through the Culture and Climate Ad Hoc, but through SB 129 and throughout the work of the agency, including the Office of Change Management. My appreciation to everyone who made this first meeting a success, and with well wishes for all the meetings to come. Thank you. Next slide, please. We had a busy month. VTA also participated in a Palo Alto Transit Station focused Urban Land Institute, or ULI, peer visit 2 weeks ago, bringing in experts from the public and private sectors from around the United States. The goal of the visit and many interviews and conversations that happened was to identify existing and future uses to make the Palo Alto Transit Center more inviting to transit customers in the community and allow us to execute on the most impactful improvements. I was happy to participate in many of the activities that week, along with members of VTA, the City of Palo Alto, Stanford University staff and officials, and many, many community members who made this possible. My thanks especially on the VTA side to Jesse O'Malley Solis, Jason Kim, Scott Haywood, and Jay Tyree for their hard work. And I also want to acknowledge the leadership of ex officio member Pat Burt for his longstanding leadership on the Palo Alto Transit Center and making this possible. ULI brings experience and international expertise to the table, and I'm looking forward to continuing the work through this report and through the ad hoc committee as well. Next slide, please. And finally, I want to mention also the community meeting or town hall that I participated in with VTA staff, including many of our executive staff, City of San Jose and board staff, and Councilmember Peter Ortiz on October 22nd. The focus of the discussion that evening is one that we will also hear about later through the board referral and the response, that is item 9.1A in tonight's packet, which is the EBRC unanticipated construction impacts and VTA's work with the community on the project corridor. We had a great turnout for the public meeting, a lot of interest, and I appreciate that we had full translation services in real time. And I really appreciate the quick turnaround from VTA staff on the response to the referral that Vice Chair Mahan, and board members Renas, and board member Candelas, and myself signed on to last month. I hope you've had a chance to read through it. I think it'll be a good discussion later today, but I know that this is a continuing community conversation, one that will be necessary to have a broadly successful VTA project. And with that, I just want to see if there's any questions or comments from colleagues on this report. Yes, Director Arenas.
Thank you. I also wanted to join in recognizing the VTA for their involvement in the human trafficking efforts and the conference that you attended last week. I attended the afternoon portion of it, and I had an opportunity to recognize Aston Green, who's our VTA Chief Systems Safety and Security Officer, and one of the wonderful some of the wonderful efforts that he has done, and maybe some of my colleagues haven't heard about this, and that is he connected with a survivor who is an advocate, and they did this pilot with our buses in which they created scenarios to see how folks would respond to a potential human trafficking case, and a lot of our bus drivers recognized, intervened, and I was really proud to see how our staff is compassionate and reactive when they see something going on. And so I'd love to see those efforts continue on as we move forward into what we are going to see next year, 3 major world events. I think this is real life scenarios that create the opportunity in a very safe manner. So just wanted to elevate his efforts and the efforts of all of the VTA staff. And so we gave them a commendation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Any comments from members of the public? Yeah. Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. It was really nice to hear about the Human Trafficking Conference and the work that you're doing. Supervisor Arenas has been doing work with young people and this human trafficking things for a long time. Really good established examples you guys have been creating, real good models. In being from San Diego at this time, they have some good human trafficking programs. They have the added dynamic of being right by the border. So they have it a bit dicier and a bit more difficult in how to address their trafficking issues sometimes. I feel personally, this is my personal opinion, that they sometimes lack a bit of communication with each other in how to better develop good practices that you guys, I think, are doing amazingly well. And I think you can give some really good advice and learn some important lessons in how San Diego works as well. So I hope you can connect with them. And they're starting child programs at this time. And so I thought Supervisor Arenas. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anyone online?
Yes. Roland, go ahead and speak when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. My hand was raised for item 6.1E earlier, but I was not recognized. Is this an appropriate time to make my comment?
I see. Yeah, we can allow it at this time.
Thank you. So this is about oversight report. Under this contract, I'm going to read you what the Bechtel press release reads. It says, under this contract, Bechtel will establish a program-wide organizational structure, processes, and procedures for effective management of all phases of construction, including early works construction, tunneling, station, system testing, commissioning, closeout, and turnover facilities. Additionally, Bechtel will manage and administer construction contracts, construction costs and schedule, change orders, claims, and disputes, as well as construction quality and safety. My question to the Chair is when any of that is going to start happening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll close public comment, and we're now on to the consent agenda, which is items 7.1 through 7.31. Members of the public who'd like to address the board on item consent, please submit your blue card now or raise your hand on the app or press star 9 on your phone. Now, are there any items that board members wish to pull from or add to the consent agenda?
I just have a brief question. I don't know.
Yeah, let's, we can take comments on that. Go ahead.
Do you want to take public comment first, or do I need to pull it to ask a question later? Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay. And any abstentions or recusals on this item? Okay. Now let's open public comment. And we have Harry Neal, Jordan Moldow, then Blair Beekman. Yeah. I don't see Harry, so Jordan, go ahead.
Thank you. Jordan Moldow, San Jose. I'd like to comment on item 7.6, which is the allocation of funding for the Silicon Valley Express Lanes Phase 5. In principle, I'm fine with this idea of taking funds from previous express lane projects and putting them to future projects. What I don't like is twofold. One, again, not pleased that Phase 5 is adding capacity to Highway 101, which is going to create more room for single occupancy vehicles and induce demand and all the negative climate effects that come with that. Second, we have money sitting around from phases 1 and 2 on the 237-880 corridor. That money can't be spent on the 101 corridor, and that's not what this action does, to be clear. It can't be spent on that corridor, and it's just sitting there, and we're not spending it other than saving it for operating itself. And so I'd really like VTA to take a look at spending some of that money on transit. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry Neal.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to comment specifically on, I believe it's 7.18, the zero emission energy sourcing. That item describes the state of energy as it relates to our zero emission transition plans. And I'm particularly concerned with the fact that 99% of available hydrogen is produced from fossil fuels. even though it is considered to be a zero-emission technology, as at point of use, there are no emissions, the fact that the fuel is created through fossil fuels is only really moving those emissions. It's not eliminating them. And we really need to be taking an ultra-critical look at what the transition to true zero-emission mobility means for us here at VTA, and generally what we should be doing with regards to hydrogen. Thank you.
Thank you. Blair Beekman. And we do generally allow one item for the consent calendar. I'll allow up to an additional minute since I know there are multiple items. So you can do 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I wanted to speak to items 710 and 721. So thank you. For item 710, Measure B Bicycle Pedestrian Planning Competitive Grant Program. For that item, I wanted to be able to, I wanted to offer to consider that in working towards this grant program, the procurement process to include the concepts of what tech accountability can be. I think we really have to be working on a holistic future of our bike programs and how not only it has good tech involved, but how that tech can be open, accountable, shared with the public, and a trusting process. I know Bike Coalition people, they're very capable of doing that, and I hope they're really on board to want to be accountable with the tech. When we do that, that creates our sustainable, holistic future. And so I'm excited in that kind of future. So to mention that. And for item 721, receive an update on 2026 special events planning. That's the stuff that's planning to prepare for the Super Bowl. And that is Bayuwasi. They are helping our local communities in the preparation and all the tons of prep, security prep and natural disaster preparedness. And I misquoted a little earlier. They haven't reached a new administration practices as of yet, but it's where they want to be going. And where they want to be going is to completely end the process of public oversight. That was the foundation of how Bayuwasi was created, that I think we really have to uphold and respect going into the future. It was how to address our lives after the era of 9/11 based on public oversight. So I hope you really have conversations and we can just simply have an open public process to decide the future of Bayuwasi and not a closed, secretive system. Thank you.
Chair, we have an online comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Roland, go ahead and speak when you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. So briefly, I would like to circle back to item 7.1, which I mentioned earlier, and basically say that I believe we need to be better at communicating what we are doing south of Gilroy. Why are we spending hundreds of millions of dollars of Measure B winding this intersection with Highway 25, and why also it's absolutely critical that we have express lanes as well as car train service between South San Jose and Gilroy, because people are not making the connection, and then members of the public are saying, oh my gosh, we don't want to widen Highway 101. Well, with everything else that's going south of Highway 101, we frankly don't have a choice. I mean, you're looking at Silicon Valley's version of the Altamont Path. That's basically what's rolling out down there. And the sooner we get help for more parties concerned, the better. Thank you.
Okay, we'll close public comment and we'll come back to the vice chair for any comments.
Great. Thank you, Chair. I just had a quick question or two on item 7.1. This is 2026 special events. Greg, I was wondering if you could give us a quick update on how we're feeling about the estimated costs associated with providing transit services around the major events in 2026 and progress toward figuring out how we're going to cover those costs.
Certainly. So I think, and I'll take this question instead of bringing folks up just for the sake of time for right now. Cost overall, I think, most of that is, a lot of that is still being developed as far as the operational costs. Security costs are going to be probably the more impactful area, safety and security that we have to address. And with those, I think what we're trying to address for ourselves internally is ways in which we can at least mitigate some of those costs through revenues or other items. So there's areas that we, I think, can control. So one of the items is through token transit, which is going to be the item that we're going to try to utilize for the events to have a premium fare that's going to be provided for riders. Hopefully, it'll be a pass that can be combined, and we're planning on doing it with Caltrain so that there's seamless transportation for those who want to use it. Links that are attached to the FIFA, NFL, and also San Jose 26. So all of these things we want to integrate so we get at least fare revenues at a higher level than what we normally would get in our normal day. Also, advertising is an area that we want to generate some revenues that, again, will help offset some of those costs. The two areas that I think that we will ultimately need some help with is in governmental assistance. So the recent guidance just came out from the Department of Homeland Security regarding a grant program. That grant program is now dedicated to the individual host cities, but the host cities themselves or the state is actually the one who's effectively sort of managing the grant process. So we're going to be applying through the Bay Area Host Committee for some of the grants, especially related to safety security. It's specific to transit safety and security. So we're going to be attempting to push through from a grant process to get those dollars. Additionally, there are some federal monies. THUD, the Senate THUD has come forward. There's about $78 million that's been identified. There's really uncertainty as to how that's going to get distributed, but we're still trying to figure out ways in which that's going to be there. And then we do have still an agreement with the 49ers that will provide at least some marginal cost recovery as it relates to that. So if you were going to ask me today, are we going to recover full cost related to it, I'd probably say no, but we're going to do everything we can to mitigate those dollars as best we can.
Great. I appreciate that answer and that you're looking at a number of different strategies. I guess I'd just ask that you keep us apprised of how we can help with advocacy, particularly in Sacramento, or with 49ers or host committee or whoever else it may be. I really like the idea of token transit, as I think you put it, the premium fare. If you're flying here, booking a hotel, going to the game, if you can afford a ticket to the game, the transit piece is a rounding error, frankly, and I'd rather just get that special pass at a premium that gives you, I don't know, all access for 72 hours or something.
Yep.
It has a nice little Super Bowl or World Cup brand on it or something, whatever it is, so like a keepsake, but, you know, charge a premium for it, right? And I think we should absolutely be exploring that. So the other thing is we're getting close on Super Bowl. We don't have too many more board meetings before then, so I know we always have really full agendas, but it might be useful for us just so we're not surprised after the fact by an article in the paper of just getting an update at some point on how things are looking in terms of estimated costs and where we think we're going to recover and kind of what that delta is. It is inevitable, I think, as you say, we're going to probably have more in operating costs than we recover, but the more we can close that gap, the better. It is just kind of part of the nature of being a host city, unfortunately, but yeah.
Can I just add one thing? Because you did ask the question about advocacy or help.
Yeah.
I will ask that especially as it relates to the DHS grant process, that's going to be an exercise that within the state and within even the Bay Area Host Committee, there's going to be, I'll call it competition amongst a lot of folks. And so we're going to need to make sure that we've got some folks behind us that help support when we put that application forward, that it is about transit, it is about the safety and security of the system, and we do have the major element within the county related to that. And so we need that support from the Bay Area Host Committee and through the state, that those funds do come to us, and then also the sheriff's office, because that's really the key element that we'll have in the cost.
It's really important. We all need to lift up our voices. People sometimes get confused about our geography, but all the games and matches are down here. The teams are staying down here, the practice facilities, and a lot of the fan activation. So we're going to bear a lot of the transit impacts. And then finally on placemaking and activations, really like some of the examples. I assume we'll see that throughout downtown stations and transit malls as well.
Yeah, our goal is to activate as many of our properties as we possibly can, and that includes vehicles, it includes platforms, it includes the building, 488 Almaden. I mean, we're going to utilize every asset that we have to promote, but also generate the revenue. So as it relates to the promotional element, I mean, we'll certainly work with, in this case, the question being downtown, we'll work with the city, especially with the SJ26 group, in trying to identify ways that we can promote activities in downtown through our platforms, through wayfinding, through whatever exercises we can to help get folks to those particular events, and so we're promoting those in conjunction with the city, so yes.
Okay, well, thank you, Greg. Thank you, Chair. I'd be happy to move the consent calendar.
Thank you. There was a second from Candelas. Any final questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, that passes. And that brings us to our regular agenda, 8.1, which is an action item to authorize the general manager / CEO to execute contracts with the lowest responsive responsible bidders for the bus parts used on VTA Gillig and New Flyer buses. The cumulative total of all contracts is $75 million for the 5-year base terms, with 2 one-year options of $15 million for a maximum contract value, if all options are exercised, of $105 million. The full staff recommendation is on screen, and Nani Singh, our Chief Operations Officer, will introduce the speakers.
Good evening, Board of Directors. I'm Noni Singh, Chief Operating Officer. I'm introducing my team to make a presentation on item 8.1. Jesse Soto, Deputy Director of Maintenance, will start the presentation with the introduction.
Thanks, Donnie. So I've been at VTA now for about close to 2 years. I was lucky enough on my first day to go ahead and be asked to go to a town hall. At that town hall, 2 hours into my first shift, my first day, I was shown how passionate the staff was about parts in the buses. From frontline staff, their frustration to go ahead and try and get the buses up, to the operators also, not having the buses available because of the parts, and the staff who was working, doing everything they could behind the parts counter to get those parts over to the frontline staff to go and get it up. So that was one of the first things that, I was introduced to. So at that point, the previous chief said, you need to do everything we can to get this up. And there's been some challenges. To compound that, we had some of our staff, unfortunately with a lot of historical knowledge of the agency, retire at the same time. So we had some hurdles to go ahead and get through. Just to give you an idea, we averaged about 15% of our fleet down for parts at that time. It was not something we were proud of and something we were going to definitely work into. So we went ahead and put our nose to the grindstone and see what we could do. At that time, we went ahead and brought in Ken Lovington. He's behind me, if he can put his hand up. Ken? Ken was nice enough to go ahead and take on the role of manager for the parts and looked at some of the efficiencies and said, we can change some of these things. Again, got input from the frontline staff. What can we work? What can we do to go ahead and make this easier for our staff? Along him came Jay Petty, who's to my left here, who's the bus engineering manager. And you'll be seeing him soon to go ahead and look at procuring new buses. But Jay worked hard also on identifying parts to high-use parts. And just to give you an idea, we have about 30 common parts we use, 30,000 parts that are pretty common in our system. Total parts in the system is about 90,000. So it is a big thing to manage. But that being said, even looking at all these deficiencies, we knew we needed somebody from the outside to go and help us get to where we needed to get to. So Pat Hagan, and before I pass this on to Pat, he's going to go ahead and present on how we got to this point and some of the strides we've made. But I also want to let you know that high teens, 15%, we're now down to hover between 3 and 5%. So it's a dramatic change of what we made. We still need a couple hurdles we need to go to, and the hopes is this contract is going to get that and make that improvement for us. So that being said, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Pat.
Thank you, Jesse. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pat Hagan, independent consultant. I've got about 35 years' experience working with transit agencies and governments, and I was also VTA's first Auditor General. So I'll take you through a little bit of the background and the rationale to address some of the issues that Jesse has spoken about. And if we could go to the next slide, please. I guess I can do that. The overall initiatives were designed to improve the procurement, support the maintenance and mechanics, and as Jesse said, reduce the downtime of the coaches. We did this through a series of different processes, including looking at some previous studies, including one that I led when I was Auditor General in 2017, looking at inventory management. We did a number of yard walkthroughs. We got some great input from sister agencies, including BART, AC Transit, CTA, and RTD. And we also had a lot of input and support that we want to acknowledge from other staff internally at VTA, particularly procurement had some great ideas and support, and technology as well as the maintenance team. So the stage that we're at now is we've got a number of these solutions proposed and that we're working on implementation. And as part of that, we've been doing some town halls and some discussions around VTA. We've also done some outreach to vendors to get some feedback for really some of the first time on some of these contracts. And it's not up here, but also importantly, we had a meeting at the GM's request with some of the union leadership back in December of 2024 to begin to socialize some of these ideas as well. So we'll identify some of the challenges and then some of the solutions that we've proposed. One of the bigger ones was just looking at the contractual process. First, there were a number of parts that just weren't on contracts. The contracts had expired. That led to significant challenges in getting some of the parts, and then a lengthy procurement process in some cases as we had to go through public bids. Additionally, materials are procured in the past on a part-by-part basis. So as Jesse said, there's I think 95,000 different part numbers at VTA, and about 8,500 were used last year. And many of those parts were procured on a very small basis, 35 or 40 part numbers at a time. And then awards were made part by part as well. So as a result of that, VTA really wasn't realizing vendor discounts. There was no volume purchasing going on at the time. And some of the vendor interest, frankly, had been declining with regard to servicing VTA. So the solutions that we undertook were to look strategically at the different procurement processes, and you'll see that we recommended and in the process of implementing 3 different types of procurement solutions. The first was an IFB, and that's the recommendation for tonight's action. So this was what's called a multi-award procurement, and not many of these have been done at VTA, and none have been done for parts in the past. But one IFB, or invitation to bid, is resulting in 8 different contract awards. And these are for some of the largest players in the industry, Gillig and New Flyer, plus some other major specialty parts providers, including Cummins engines. And also for the first time, VTA will have access to the vendor's entire catalog of parts. So no longer will it be sort of part by part, but it'll be pretty broad access. And we've received discounted pricing, in some cases from the largest vendors, of up to 15%. The second thing we did is we agreed to enter into a state leveraged agreement, and many of you know that the state of California has many competitively bid contracts already in place that can be leveraged by local agencies. So the VTA has executed a contract with Granger, and there's now an online portal that can be used for ordering consumables. And consumables, as the name implies, are things that are used like gloves or batteries that do not actually go on vehicles. The other idea that's a best practice that we're going to be implementing is using vending machines and lockers at many of the yards, and this has also been implemented at many other transit properties across the country. So the next area was just generally procedures, and because of some of the staff turnover that Jesse alluded to and the lack of documentation, we've ended up documenting process flows. We looked at the current practices, and we've updated those. We got some best practices, as I had mentioned previously, from other agencies, and we looked at the KPIs, or key performance indicators, and many of those, partially because of some SAP limitations, have not been previously used at VTA. So things like just inventory turnover, other min-max, reorder points, best practices will be continue to be developed. And then additionally, consumables right now are treated as parts within SAP, and they're really not parts. So one of the things that we'll do going forward is remove those from the SAP inventory, which will also allow for faster replenishment. On the technology side, many of you are probably familiar with the Project Drive efforts that are resulting in the new ERP and enterprise asset management solutions. These will help address the first challenge that we note here, which is that many of the materials management modules lacked updated functionality, and some of the reports that were available just hadn't been turned on at VTA. One of the other things that had been deferred over the years is entering some of the parts breakouts and the schematics into SAP so that the mechanics and maintenance folks would be able to more easily understand first what part is needed, and secondly, whether that part's on contract. So all of these efforts will be supporting the new Maximo system that has been selected for enterprise asset management, and also the materials management team and Ken Levington and others have been very active in not only developing some of the business requirements for the new system, but also participating in training sessions before go live. So as Jesse mentioned, the overall results of this is the down coach percentage is improving. We've seen the numbers here from fiscal year 2025. The blue bar represents the highest month in each of that fiscal year, and the green bar represents the end of the fiscal year. So for each of the 3 yards that we've identified here, the trend is downward. Now, there'll still be some volatility, but as Jesse said, we do expect when the rest of these efforts are implemented that the overall service and to the riders will be significantly enhanced. So really, these changes are pretty significant, and they take a bit of time and effort. And again, we thank those that were helpful to us. And in my opinion, you know, a lot of these are best practices, and some of these are the first time that these procedures have been implemented at VTA. So we do think that they'll be beneficial for several years going forward as well. And with that, we're happy to take some questions.
Thanks so much, colleagues. Well, let's take public comment first. Do we have any speaker cards on this item? Anyone online? No? Okay, we'll close public comment and come back. Any questions for staff from colleagues? I will just make a comment that we heard this item at A&F, and Jesse, it wasn't my first day on the board, but very early on during my time as a board member, the first tour I took was one of the yards and was introduced and literally saw the inventory of all the parts and heard about the exact issues that you're highlighting. And so this to me is one of the more exciting items, believe it or not, that I think we've had on the board, because I know just how significant it will be for the agency. So thank you for all the work, the outside help that we had, especially given the turnover that you mentioned that we had. I really hope this will help support the work that each of our employees do every day and just make their jobs that much easier.
Thank you. I just if I could add on, I really want to thank our procurement department who put a lot of work into this, Nicole and her team. Hopefully she's staring at the back of my head right now, appreciating this. But yeah, thank you. I want to say that. And really the frontline staff who helped us put all this together, along with Jay, the project manager. But we're open to any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any last comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this item. Turner and Kamei, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That item passes.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I'll give our next speakers a chance to come up. Next, we have 8.2, 8.3. As was noted under orders of the day, we'll be hearing these items together since they're related. 8.2 is an update on BSV2, and 8.3 is an overview of the project's path forward, an item that was deferred from the October 17th special meeting. Tom McGuire, our Chief Capital Mega Projects Delivery Officer, will introduce the rest of our speakers for these items.
Hey, good evening, directors. Thank you for the chance to share these two informational items today. As the chair said, we're going to cover two items for the price of one here. The first is going to be an update on our construction and engagement activities, and the second will get into a little more detail on some of our important next steps regarding both moving the project forward and repackaging our contracts. So I will start with a reminder of where we've been over the last few months. So you recall that on August 20th, we conducted our independent peer review with transit professionals from around the country who gave us some very direct advice, which we shared with all of you at our October 2025 special meeting. We're committed to continuing to implement the recommendations of the peer review, but we also received your support and vote in favor of the project configuration referred to as Scenario 1, which is the basis of all the efforts you'll hear about today, and our planning, design, contract packaging, ultimately our full funding grant agreement application planning, and also our pursuit of an adaptive plan or a plan B in case that FFGA does not move on the timeline that we want. Sarah Wilson is going to tell us a little bit about the construction progress we're having on the West Portal site.
So we've got some photos for you today. On the left side is the Y-panel rebar cage assembly. So this, the steel beam box that you can see is the tripping frame that's used to facilitate the assembly and installation of the massive cages that go in the joints where the little sections of the caterpillar squish together. We call those Y-panels. It's a significant structural element in the supportive excavation. And the cages are flexible and can be installed with a 2-crane lift, but for a number of reasons, KST's decided to use these custom-built tripping frames. So the cages get built inside the tripping frame horizontally on the ground surface, and then on the right-hand side, what you're seeing is the cage vertical outside the tripping frame with only the lifting frame on top of it, being lifted by our massive crane and installed in the excavated panel. Oh, I think maybe we skipped one. No. Okay. Then we have at the upper end of the ramp in the sheet pile area, the sheet piles, as we've previously reported, are already installed. Excavation of the first level down is now complete. And once that excavation is completed, the working slab gets installed. 2 sections of this have been installed. On the right-hand side, what you're seeing is the equipment used to pour the concrete. Then further down the ramp, after the excavation is made, the bracing is installed. So the sheet pile area has significant size steel struts that get installed, stressed, and instrumented to make sure that they are carrying the proper loads. Now that level 1 excavation is complete, level 2 excavation has begun, and the contractor has started using, Kiewit Shea Trailer has started using a long stick excavator, which can reach further over the walls without having to try to drive in and around those braces. That's it for that.
Okay. Meanwhile, our engagement activities with our communities continue. I won't go through everything on this slide, but we have been out and about in all of our communities over the last month. 2 things worth highlighting are the community working groups that took place on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. Those took place before the October 13th special meeting, again, continuing our commitment to engage our CWGs before we engage this board. And secondly, I want to acknowledge Director Jane and his colleagues on the Santa Clara City Council, who on October 7th approved an update to our construction traffic management plan, which will enable some of the work that Sarah described to take place more efficiently due to our ability to work 24 hours a day. Upcoming engagement activities will be working closely with our colleagues in the city of San Jose on downtown station designs. We'll be making the West Portal site available for as many of you as would like to come out there. We'd love to have you out on site to see the work that Sarah is describing face to face. We'll be doing a media availability on November 20th, so our media partners can give the public an inside look at what we're doing. And we'll be doing a combined end-of-the-year community working group at the new VTA headquarters on Almaden Boulevard on December 2nd. And then as far as how we'll be engaging with this board, we have tomorrow morning, we'll have our joint VTA BART board working committee. We'll be sharing with our BART board colleagues what we shared with you at the special meeting, as well as highlighting ways in which both agencies are trying to strengthen our partnership as we continue to design the project around the preferred configuration. We have an oversight committee coming up on the 13th. We'll have some more updates on the construction work. We also have an important contract bringing on a new consultant to do stakeholder outreach and community engagement. We'll bring that update and that contract to the full board in December, and then continue with our updates on contract package 2 at the December 11th Oversight Committee. So that concludes our presentation for item number 8.2. And Chair, I think I'm going to go right into the slides for 8.3.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this item, we're going to cover three things. Sarah Hersom from the PMT is going to give an overview of the contract packaging, refresh, and analysis that we'll be doing over the next couple of months. She'll also be talking about some of the different contract delivery models that we're considering for each of these contract packages. Again, this work grows directly out of the peer review we did. And then we'll finish, I'll be talking about some of the key next steps we'll be asking you for your support as a board and how they relate to our progress with respect to construction and contracting and the pursuit of the full funding grant agreement. And I will hand it to Sarah.
Thanks, Tom. Sarah Hersom, Interim Program Manager for the BSV2 program. I'm going to go pretty quickly through these contract packaging slides. Most of this is level setting to tee up for a quick overview of the various delivery methods that we'll be evaluating for the implementation of the remaining construction work on the program. We did go through some of these packaging slides earlier this summer when we brought forward the off-ramp recommendation for the current CP2 contract. But just as a refresher, what's shown on the screen here is the four primary contract packages that we've been carrying as the basis for our program's packaging and implementation plan for the past 4 or 5 years. In green is what we call CP1, which is the systems contract, has been assumed to be design bid build. CP2 is the current KST contract. CP3 is the yard and Santa Clara station, and CP4 is the stations contract. As we prepared to bring the off-ramp recommendation to the board earlier this summer, we needed to go through an evaluation of what an appropriate contract composition and delivery method would be to reprocure the tunnel contract. And as part of that, we went through a pretty robust evaluation looking at VTA's different goals and objectives, industry feedback, schedule, sequencing, and the current status of the various design and early work packages. That led us to a recommendation, to a recommendation of a smaller scope than what was included in KST's current contract, and that is what is the composition of what we're now calling CP5, which will be this new tunnel contract. So the remaining work needs to be reallocated to other contract packages. We came up with a preliminary packaging approach earlier this year, which is what's shown on the screen. And you can see the CP2, which is KST's contract, CP5, which would be the new tunneling contractor on the left, and then in the middle is all the systems components of work, and on the right is the remaining facilities elements. You'll see a bunch of gray boxes, which is scopes of work that was previously in KST's contract, which needs to be reallocated either into new contracts or kind of parsed into the other contracts that we had contemplated. What is shown was sort of our preliminary pass at that, and then we had really been kind of paused, waiting for the configuration to be finalized as whichever way that went was really going to inform and change the recommendations on packaging and delivery method. So now that is behind us, we are starting a structured process to do the same vetting and evaluation on both packaging and then delivery method for the remaining scopes of work. Similar to what we did for the tunnel contract, we are considering some of the items shown on the screen, which is notably interface and risk management, schedule sequencing, cost competitiveness, contract size, market interest. We also got some really good feedback from the peer review on this, which we are considering as part of this evaluation. We are at the point now where we are honing in on some preliminary conclusions on packaging approach and starting to consider the different options for delivery models. So ahead of that getting too much further, wanted to give you a quick overview of what those are comprised of. So the differences between these models that I'll go through is really just the contractual relationship between VTA as the owner with both the designer and the contractor, the timing of when those parties get involved, and the responsibilities of them. There's sort of a spectrum of different delivery methods that's shown on this, with design bid build being a more traditional approach on the left that has a greater owner role and risk ownership on the owner side as part of that. You have collaborative contracting models that include CMGC, which is construction management general contractor, and also progressive design build, which is what we had implemented for KST. Moving towards the right, where it starts going into sort of a greater role on the private side and risk retention away from the owner, is a lump sum design build model, and then further into other models that we're not currently considering, but that include design build finance, sometimes with a maintenance and operations aspect layered onto that. So what's shown here is, you can see on the left, there's traditional contracting, design bid build, then collaborative contracting, then design build, which would be lump sum. Across the top of the slide is kind of the phases of design and construction on a program. And the key difference here is really the extent to which the owner is engaged throughout design and when the contractor comes in. So you can see in traditional contracting, the owner has kind of full control and ownership over design, and a contractor is not coming in until it's time to build it, whereas within design build, the contractor is getting engaged much earlier. Collaborative contracting, which is in the middle, has sort of a phased approach to contractor engagement. So I'll go through 5 different delivery models just quickly here. What we first have is the traditional design bid build approach. This is where a designer and a contractor are separately contracted to an owner. The construction contract is a low bid price selection that occurs after the design is already at 100%. Design build is a little bit different in that the designer and the contractor are one entity that is jointly contracted to the owner. It occurs much sooner in time than is realized under design bid build. The price is fixed at the procurement stage, which occurs usually around 30%. And the design builder at that point takes the responsibility for finishing the design and then constructing it. Progressive design build you are familiar with from its implementation with KST. It's very similar to design build, with the exception that it's a qualifications-based selection, and you are not locked into a price until the design is progressed after selection. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I think you're very familiar with it. CMGC, which is construction manager, general contractor, is similar to design bid build in that the designer and the contractor are both are independently contracted to the owner. The difference is that the contractor is brought on much sooner than is the case with design bid build. It has similarities with PDB in the sense that it's a qualifications-based selection for the contractor, and the price is not locked in until after design is further advanced. The last model that we'll touch on is maybe new to some of you, has a few different names in the industry, but design, furnish, install, which is something that can be applied to sort of complex systems, scopes of work. It can look similar to either design build or design bid build, really depending on how the contract is structured. But the idea here is that Instead of having a general contractor have the systems work under their contract, which they would usually sub out and include additional markups on, in this case, the owner would contract directly with a systems contractor or multiple, and be able to have more direct control over the completion of design, be able to eliminate redundancy and markups that would come through a general contractor, and have greater transparency through the implementation of that contract. So where we are at right now, we are starting to wrap up our packaging assessment, and soon to be discussing different delivery methods. That will conclude by the end of the year, and I would say at that point we'll have a preliminary revised contract packaging and procurement plan. At that point, that'll serve as the basis for further design development internally as we head into next year. Although we are anticipating another round of market sounding and industry engagement, as we feel that's really important to take into account and test before we finalize anything.
Okay, so final thing we're going to talk about today is what we call the path forward. So again, we've been through a lot together as staff and board over the last year. The off-ramp, the cost savings efforts, the receipt of the New Starts engineering letter, the configuration vote, this packaging effort. But I also want to spend a minute taking a look forward at our path towards the full funding grant agreement and to continue construction of the project. The schedule that I'm going to put on the screen shows a series of sequential milestones, and at the end I'll talk about how they all fit together. We have our design milestones. So currently we have the cost savings concepts, the items that the BSV2 Oversight Committee has been seeing every month, and this board's been seeing periodically over the last year. Those are at approximately 15% right now. We need to get them to 60%. We can get there by the middle of the upcoming calendar year, by July 1st of the calendar year, and then we'll continue to advance that design further. But that 60% milestone is important, and I'll come back to why in a minute. Next, we have our construction activities, which we've been hearing about every month. The early works construction underway, the West Portal launch structure, which began in 2025 and will continue until March of 2027 when it's complete. And that's important because, of course, that's the predecessor to the pre-launch, the mobilization, ultimately launch of our tunnel boring machine. Our engagement efforts with our communities, with our Auditor General and oversight consultants, with this board, and with our funders will continue, and that's really an ongoing effort throughout. We did that really important peer review back in August that is undergirding our thinking about configuration and risk management going forward, and we'll continue to keep our stakeholders up to date in the months ahead. This board's been making really important decisions, and we're grateful for those decisions. We'll continue to bring hard choices to you with our recommendations because we have a lot of important milestones to hit. Your authorization of the early works packages last fall, almost a year ago, has enabled all the great work that we've been seeing on the slides these last few months, which is the critical path item to the project. We cannot build this project on time if we can't build a tunnel. We can't get the tunnel started on time without that launch structure. The next big decision was the revised configuration that came on the heels of the off-ramp. And the next big set of things we'll be bringing to you are our readiness documents, our schedule, our balanced budget, and all the things we need to do to apply for the full funding grant agreement. There'll be some environmental determinations coming up at the end of 2026, and if we stay on schedule, an opportunity to award a tunnel package in early 2027. And then finally, there's our relationship with the Federal Transit Administration, our largest external funder. We did the value engineering workshop at the beginning of our cost-saving efforts. That took place in December of 2024. We've been through, FTA has been an important partner in all of our cost savings work and in the peer review. But the next big milestone we have with the FTA will be when we begin to submit our FFGA early readiness documents so that we can go into a risk assessment or risk reevaluation in the fall of next year. And that is the last step before we submit the full funding grant agreement. Our goal is to submit that FFGA at the end of calendar 2026 so that Again, under the textbook schedule, we're ready to get an award in the middle of 2027. However, I acknowledge that this board has asked several times, and we are working to answer your questions about what our adaptive plan is should that bottom line start to stretch out for reasons that are beyond our control. We do think there are ways to continue to move the project forward on schedule without the FFGA, but the slides we're gonna show here are the schedule that we're driving at. So how do all these things fit together? Let's talk about how the configuration decision and what it's driving. With the decision we made last month, we're able to confidently advance our project design to the 60% level, and that's an important milestone because that feeds into the readiness documents that we'll need to first bring to this board to demonstrate that we have the balanced budget necessary to apply for the FFGA, and then take that design forward into the initial part of the FFGA application, the FTA's risk assessment. They'll look at our costs through an independent lens and our design. And that'll allow us to submit the application at the end of this year and potentially receive the FFGA in the middle of 2027. There's also the timeline for how our construction moves forward. So the work, the decisions you made to authorize the launch structure have enabled us to keep that project on time and on budget, on schedule. That launch structure construction is supported by decisions about the off-ramp, about the revised project configuration, and ultimately the FFGA. Our goal is to be making progress towards the FFGA and ideally have the FFGA in hand before that tunnel package is awarded in Q2 of 2027. As I said, we will provide an adaptive plan that shows alternate paths to this, but this is how the federal funding and the board decisions and construction fit together. That tunnel package will allow the construction to continue on the West Portal site after the West Portal is done, after the launch structure is done, and to get us on the best possible schedule towards building the tunnel, even with the approximately 18-month delay associated with the off-ramp. And so that's how all these different pieces, the decisions that you're making, the progress we're making on site, and our pursuit of federal funding are fitting together to keep us as close as possible to the schedule we need to protect that 2037 revenue service date. Sorry. And that is the end of our presentation, and we look forward to your questions.
Thanks so much. So first, let's take public comment for items 8.2 and 8.3. And we have Blair Beekman, and then we'll go to online.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman. You officially approved your project at the October 17th workshop meeting, is my understanding. I spoke at your October regular BOD meeting that I really want to still be able to work on. I thank you that you offered one more time to offer reports on the difference between a dual track and the single bore system and a parallel side-by-side track. And that showed a certain care and dedication. Thank you. I really hope that, there is a certain care and dedication that you've decided within the single bore to lay them side by side instead of on top of each other. There's safety factors that you've respected. And there were, there's different safety factors with tracks side by side instead of the single bore. I hope we don't have to be afraid to have those conversations openly, in the positives and the negatives, in both. And what's the advantages and what's the disadvantages? We don't fear that conversation. I've been trying to learn how to say that openly just so we can say it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to online.
Roland, go ahead and speak when you're ready.
Thank you. So the last comment about this portal being on time and on budget is preposterous. That contract was $235 million, is now ballooned to over $1 billion. It's 300% over budget. Circling back to the peer review panel, these people have no subject matter expertise relevant to recommendation on single bore or concurrent only. And this is what resulted in a recommendation diametrically opposed to FTA's PMOC, which is Atkins Global, one of the most highly regarded engineering firms in the entire world. With regards to contract repackaging, the time has come to off-ramp HNTB and Parsons Brinkerhoff and promote Bechtel to the role of project delivery partner, working with VTA as a founding partner, so that Bechtel can rescue this project just like they rescued the Channel Tunnel back in 1990. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all the public comment we have? Okay, we'll close public comment. Do we have any questions or comments from colleagues? Director Jane.
Yeah, so as part of the off-ramp of KST, we went to smaller packages. We added the CP5. And, you know, the idea of having large packages was that you didn't have a lot of coordination between the contractors. So now, on slide 8, you identify interface and risk management. So the issue is when you have more contractors, you have to really work on those interfaces and the integration. And that can really lead to cost escalations due to change orders. So I really want to understand how we are going to minimize the risk for having more contractors in more packages.
Yeah, I think I mean, it's a valid point, and that is the trade-off. I think there's a trend across the industry to, with contractors that are being far more selective in the types and contracts that they're going after. Some of that is delivery method, but a lot of that is the size of the contract. And there's far less risk appetite within the construction community at this stage to be taking on huge contracts. And I think that's part of what we saw and heard from the industry as part of the market sounding associated with CP5. To your point about the trade-off, where if you have additional contracts, that does introduce additional interface risk. I will note that some of the contracts that we're proposing are in geographically different locations. So the stations contracts, if those are all different, it's not necessarily introducing additional interface risks since they're not touching each other. But we're being extremely mindful of and intentional about those interfaces and considering that as part of the vetting process. It's extremely important to have a robust interface and integration management team on the owner side to manage that, both on the facilities and also on the systems integration side, and those are different qualifications for those personnel. And that is something we intend to do as part of this program as it moves forward.
So you're saying we're going to build a VTA interface and integration team, not just rely on the consultants. Is that correct?
I think there's two-part answer to that. The interface and integration is the most senior talent in that area is likely to be a consultant. That's just the reality of where that talent is in the industry. However, we are going to continue to beef up the VTA team. We are currently hiring for an engineering manager position, which will play an important role in the interface and integration steps that take place during design. And then there's another step which takes place during construction and installation, commissioning, and testing. It's a different role, and it's a different set of skills. And we're still, through this packaging exercise that Sarah described, considering how to implement the peer review's recommendation that there be some kind of master system integrator. And it really depends on how the contract is packaged. Again, that's likely to be a contractor as well, but it's an independent set of skills that we'll identify and make sure we have.
Yeah, my concern is that this is a 15-year project. And so to have in-house experts that are long-term makes sense because they have the history rather than have contractors rotate employees. Anyway, my second question is, when is the launch structure expected to complete?
That's Q1 of 2027.
But we're not going to start tunneling until 2029?
If we reprocure, it introduces a procurement timeline that does introduce delay, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, I don't see any more. Thank you for the update for both presentations. I'm glad we were able to continue the item and hear it in full. Thanks so much. We don't need a motion for these information items. We'll go to 9.1, items of concern, referral to administration. For item 9.1, the staff response to the referral related to the East Ridge to BART Regional Connector from the October 6, 2025 meeting is in your reading folder and is also available online. And also, thank you. I also want to acknowledge a new referral that was submitted that asks staff to conduct an independent data-driven analysis and work with experts so that we can transform transit in Santa Clara County, making it more efficient and safer while ensuring VTA's long-term financial sustainability. The document is in front of you and is available online. Do we have any colleagues who wish to speak on either of these? Yes, Director Candelas.
Thank you, Chair Lopez. I guess my comments are just more for the 9.1, and I just wanted to take a moment to express my appreciation to my colleagues on the board for their support of the referral, as well as VTA staff on their response. You know, as we move forward and as staff works out the details on the support package, I think we must maintain this level of urgency and carry the assumption that the EBRC project is affecting the quality of life for businesses and residents. And you know, I think we have to be direct in how we engage the comments we receive from folks, especially at a risk of invalidating the concerns that they bring to us and their feelings about what's going on. So I guess my question for staff is specifically regarding the anticipated timeline to come back to the board in early 2026, and whether it's possible to have it in either January or February more specifically, given the concerns we heard today directly from some of those business owners, and every month that passes risks potentially their business being around or not.
Yeah, Greg.
Yep. So I guess I'll provide a quick response to that. I mean, I think number one, and I appreciate the comments you've made as it relates to staff. I think what we've shown is certainly a desire to make sure that the community is engaged, and then we're hearing and listening to what they're having to say and issues that they have raised. And I think the team has done a fantastic job of staying engaged with that. So from that perspective, I don't see any reason why, as that continues, that we continue to get some of that feedback. As we get new information, or as information comes to us over the next several weeks, if there's a way for us to come forward a little bit sooner, I don't think there's any issues from that perspective for us to figure out a way to come forward with whatever new information or additional information that we're receiving that then allows for us to go forward with the plan that we've identified that we would come to you with.
No, that's awesome. Thank you, Greg. And you know, I think it's the referral and the response received from staff was responsive and does propose a pathway forward to do better and to assist our local businesses who are clearly struggling. And I know that we are doing a great job, especially of implementing some of the lessons learned from the Alum Rock Bus Rapid Transit project from a couple years ago. So this is not similar in that sense, but this is an opportunity for us to lean in and engage on some of the concerns that we heard firsthand. So thank you.
Thanks so much. I'm going to go to Director Arenas, then the Vice Chair, and then over to Director Weinberg.
Thank you. So I've been sitting on the committee that oversees the East Ridge to BART project since when I started as a council member, and we were holding our breath for a really long time figuring out the path forward monetarily, and now that we are here, we should have known that it was going to create some disruptions for our community. We had already learned our lesson in Alum Rock, right? It was such a small corridor that you could really see the impact. The difference here with Capitol Expressway is that you can't see the impact, but the impact is greater because there was a lot more traffic coming through the expressway or taking alternative routes. And for example, I am out of the district for my daughter, and so I use Capital Expressway to drop her off. And I learned that I shouldn't take Capital Expressway if I want to get her on time to school. So I've changed my route. So when I change my route, I also change where I'm going to pick up coffee or where I'm going to gas up, right? And I represent, just like any other person who uses that corridor, a change in my behavior, in where I'm going to patronize, right? So these are the subtle changes that happen every single day for our small businesses. And we can't see it or appreciate it because we think, well, we're not disrupting their, their driveway or their parking space, or you don't see it like you saw it in Alum Rock, where it was virtually, there's nowhere else to go. But there are impacts to our community just the same, if not greater, because there are so many more people taking alternative routes. And so I don't want this to get lost simply because we are not obstructing a driveway or because we don't see the impacts in front of a store or whatever business it is. The impacts are there, and like I just laid out my change in my pattern. I know that is times 1,000 for every single day, right? So anyways, this is wearing on our businesses, and even down in my area where I established a new business association, specifically because of this, because we know research has showed us time and time over again that transportation infrastructure construction destabilizes our businesses. And those folks are feeling it the same. These guys are off of Aborn, so they're just a little bit off of the Capital Expressway. But this is where my community goes to pick up their cleaning, to pick up their coffee, to go do any variety of things, because there isn't that many shopping centers over in the kind of Evergreen East Side area. So I hope that this is just the beginning, that we continue to look and really appreciate not only the data, but how people are shifting and changing their patterns in terms of their routes, and to really create that nexus in terms of that change in pattern and the impact that it's having on that shopping center, on that company, on that small business, because I know that I've done that. I've done that, and I know that everybody who's driving along with me is doing it just as well. So I just want to thank Councilmember Candelas, the mayor, our vice chair and our chair, for supporting our small businesses and making sure that we make it right. And you said it very well, Mayor, this morning. Sometimes the right thing create some inadvertent consequences, and this is what we're seeing now. So hopefully we'll continue to progress in this.
Thank you. Over to the Vice Chair.
Thanks. I want to just briefly comment on both referrals. On the first, appreciate Director Candelas bringing forward this referral and spearheading it along with colleagues and the support from colleagues. I think the supervisor said it well. We were out this morning earlier and spoke directly with some small business owners who detailed some very real impacts. I mean, literally a guy with health issues thinking he's got to sell a small business because it's at the point where people order the pizza and pay for it, but when they sit in traffic for 20 minutes, they just give up on the order and want a refund. And so, obviously we have to verify impacts, and we won't be able to make everybody whole, but it would be a real shame to see dozens of small businesses, local entrepreneurs who have built their livelihoods out there lose their businesses, and we want to do everything we can to bridge them. So I think it's the right thing to do. I think we should do it in a thoughtful, disciplined, rigorous way, and really understand the impacts we're having and do our best to mitigate them. So I appreciate the group that came together to work on that. I did notice in the staff memo a reference of public safety improvements, and while I know there's a lot of community demand across our entire city, our entire region, maybe particularly the east side, for public safety and pedestrian upgrades, I do think the priority here is making sure that small businesses and residents along the corridor are made whole and bridged through to the other side of this project. As much as we want to see all those pedestrian improvements happen, we know that even one of those could be the equivalent of keeping a dozen small businesses afloat or more. And so I would bias toward, I think our feeling, those of us who put forward the referral, feel that the impacts on individual residents and small business owners right on the corridor should be the priority, because there are other sources of funding for infrastructure upgrades. And then on the other referral, and I won't go on and on, but I do want to just thank colleagues, Chair Lopez, thank you, Directors Abe Koga, Cohen, Turner, and Weinberg for co-authoring a referral that recognizes that we're in a pivotal moment. We're facing structural deficits, operating deficits, and we're not alone in that. Other transit agencies have more severe ones. We, as a body, chose to be part of a regional tax district and anticipate that the public may very well put a revenue measure on. And this is the moment for us to hold ourselves accountable with our staff, working with external experts and stakeholders to really analyze our business model, and we owe it to our public. And I think this is both true for helping a future measure to be in a position where it's more credible and that we would have a good expenditure plan should it come to fruition. Of course, that's a public initiative, not something we would put on the ballot. But I also just think in general, even without the revenues, we need to improve our understanding of the business model mathematically and figure out what are the bets we're going to make over the coming years that put us in a better position by increasing ridership and giving us economies of scale and create efficiencies and fiscal sustainability and start to bend the curve on per passenger trip costs and get us to a healthier place so that in a decade or a decade and a half, we're in a place where we're not having to go back to the voters and try to renew 3 different sales tax measures, but actually we have a more sustainable business model that's serving more people, reducing congestion, and really working and is a system of choice, not just of necessity. So that's kind of the spirit of it. There's a lot more in there, but I really hope we all together can go on a journey over the next year of deeply understanding the current business model and deficiencies and developing some shared hypotheses with our staff around the investments we need to make to be in a much better place a decade from now when we're all done with our service on this body and handed off to the next group of elected representatives. So thank you for letting me comment on those, Chair.
Thank you. Director Weinberg.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to share a conversation that I had several weeks ago. I took a ride share, and it turns out that my ride share driver is also a coach operator for the VTA. He mentioned that, and I mentioned that I'm on the board of directors, and I was a little nervous saying that. I usually try to strike up a conversation when I take a ride share. I was a little nervous saying I'm on the board of directors, but I wanted to talk to him more. Turns out he has no animosity towards the board. He had no animosity toward me. I was very surprised to learn that he and at least his friends prefer driving the articulated buses as opposed to the non. I thought it would have been the other way around because the non-articulated are shorter. But a question that I asked him was, what is the one thing that the board of directors can do to make your life and your job easier outside of additional pay? What's the one thing we can do? And without stopping to think about it, he said, safe and clean comfort stations at each end of our route, which makes all the sense in the world, right? And I know that this is something that staff has been working on, that the board has talked about in the past, but I just wanted to emphasize how important it is to this one particular coach operator, and I have to imagine that that's probably universally felt. So that is one thing that this board can do to make life easier for our operators, for our ATU members. So I wanted to share that.
Thank you very much. Any other board member comments or items of concern? If not, I do just want to, yeah.
You want to?
Yeah.
So if I can just touch on 2 things real quick. I just want to follow up on Director Arenas' comments and then to Director Weinberg. So again, Director Arenas, I just want to make sure it's very clear for the board and the process we're going through that we are very committed to making sure that the community is heard. And I think the process that the community outreach team has been doing and the project team, However, we need to continue doing that. We'll continue doing that, making sure that we're hearing and understanding what the concerns are. And in any way, shape, or form, we need to make sure that the project is successful, because this is by and far probably the most important project. I'll even call it right now outside, inclusive of BSV2. This is an important project. And so we want it to be successful, and we want to learn from those examples from the past. And so I just want this group to understand we are very committed to hearing and understanding and addressing any and all issues that come to us. So we will definitely do that. And I just want to say to Director Weinberg, that is one of the most important projects that we have going on inside of VTA, of those end route rest areas for all of the operators. That is by and far one of the most important things that we've been trying to address really for the last couple of years. And I think we're getting close. And we're going to make sure that that happens for everybody. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just briefly want to address both referrals. I won't repeat the points that were made, but just that I really see a common theme in these of being responsible and transparent and accountable to the communities that we serve, whether it's with EBRC and the commitments that we have to fulfill there. And I thank those who made the referral, who have spoken, as well as Councilmember Peter Ortiz for his leadership, as well as I mentioned in my chair report, in inviting myself and VTA staff to a town hall that he held on this topic. It's important to us that we get it right, and completely agree with the comments that were made regarding the need for us to be accountable, and I really see it as showing our work with this referral that's on the screen as well. And I'll just add, I look forward to what I hope will be vigorous debate. I think it will get us the information, the data that we will need to have those informed debates to make the best decisions for our community. So I look forward to that. I do want to. I have a couple public comment cards for 9.1. I'll start with Blair Beekman, then Harry Neal, and then Dominic Tresseller.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman. Thank you for taking public comment on a 9.1 item. This was a long session and agenda item, and thank you for public comment. The Alamrock project of a few years ago now has been, I think, really important lessons for ourselves. In reading over the Google, the AI feature, their new feature they have, it described that this project is supposed to be done by 2028 with what was mentioned is several small projects working. So we're looking at least until through 2026 or 27. So a real good luck, and to me that's what it sounds like. Good luck what you can be really working on. A January meeting would be really nice and helpful, it sounds like, and good luck what it needs to do towards that end. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry Neal.
Thank you. I'd like to speak to the referral made by the chair and some of the other board members on the topic of a long-term financial sustainability for our agency. This is absolutely critical and must be as thoroughly investigated as possible. One issue that I think we can probably start acting on sooner than by the end of our 14-year tax timeline is we should be, as soon as possible, looking to do a mechanical overhaul of our light rail vehicles. As I understand it, the obsolescence of many of the parts of them leads to very high costs for maintenance, and overhauling them with more modern parts would help a lot to both extend their lifespan and reduce the cost of operation. Thank you.
Thank you. Dominic? And let's do up to 2 minutes for this one.
Great. Thank you, Chair. I'll wait. Great. Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Dominic, and I'm here speaking on behalf of Councilmember Peter Ortiz, who represents the east side of San Jose, District 5. For nearly a year, residents and small business owners along the Capitol Expressway have been living with the consequences of the construction of the East Ridge BART Regional Connector. Damaged property, lost customers, noise, and traffic have turned daily life into a challenge. One of our residents who went to that meeting that the chair referenced earlier testified that her daily walking commute has her fearing for her life, as pedestrian conditions under construction have put her in the path of speeding vehicles. I wanted to thank VTA staff for recognizing these unanticipated impacts and for bringing forward the $500,000 proposal to support small businesses and residents. It's a meaningful first step, and we look forward to working together to address these problems. That said, while we appreciate the extensive outreach work VTA details in their response, there is a clear disconnect between that outreach and providing meaningful resolution to residents' concerns when they are brought up. Just this morning at our press conference, a contractor working on EBRC had to be asked to move his truck and trailer that was taking 8 spaces in a parking lot meant to support a local shopping center. This came after months of business owners telling VTA that this was happening and the project team telling them it simply was not the case. Accountability should not be something that we're afraid of. We hope that for the duration of the construction process, we can all take responsibility for these issues and address them for the community together. Because if this project is supposed to benefit East San Jose, it cannot be allowed to destroy the community around it to exist. We hope that by working together, we can make this project a cornerstone of East San Jose's revitalization, a chance to show that major infrastructure doesn't have to come at the expense of neighborhood safety and stability. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thanks so much. I appreciate the comments and the discussion. I also just really want to thank VTA staff who, at every point as we've engaged on this and worked to make the process better, have been fully supportive and behind those efforts. So thank you for the work that is ongoing.
And Chair, we have 2 comments on Zoom.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please, Sue.
Okay, we're gonna, it's to Roland and Jordan. Roland, go ahead and speak when you're ready.
Thank you. So I hope this is working. Okay, good. So I would like to start by really, I want to express my gratitude to Director Mahan for articulating a clear vision for successful transit business plan. But in closing, with regards to what is happening to EBRC, I can assure you that this is nothing compared to what is about to happen to downtown San Jose. Because the current station designs do not leverage the inherent advantages of a single bowl tunnel large enough to host a small BART station, including a concourse, a platform, and tracks. And I'm just going to leave you with a teaser tonight. Look at St. Petersburg escalator shafts. That's the solution for San Jose. That's how we're going to save $3 billion, having 3 entrances in downtown San Jose. Thank you. Good night.
And we have one more person. Jordan, go ahead and speak when you're ready.
Hello again, Jordan Moldau, City of San Jose. I'm in support of the 2 referrals. On the new referral regarding the revenue measure and the business plan, I think that's really, really important work. My hope is that this work is already well underway as part of VTA's work on their strategic plan and business plan, but I hope that that work can be elevated and brought to the forefront and really prioritized, because I think it's really crucial that financial security and increase in ridership per capita need to be the thing that VTA has laser focus on, and everything the organization does should be derived from those 2 things, in addition to trying to achieve climate and mobility justice. So I hope this work can be done quickly and elevated and incorporated into the strategic and business plan. And also just wanted to ask the question of what time would be the right time to start crafting a hypothetical spending plan for the revenue measure. Thank you.
That's all the comments, Chair.
Thanks so much. That wraps us up for 9.2. And we conclude our public comment earlier. We conclude our closed session. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.